And where is it? There. What page are we on? We don't know. Hmm. That's the end. Okay. You're muted, Kent. I don't know what narrative is going.
Just trying to see if it shows up big enough you can see it. That's all.
So are you indicating? Yeah. So I'm seeing the 3 apartment buildings.
Right. Okay. This would be hard. I got to be Vanna. I don't know if it'll help or not. Oh, it's on this end. Okay.
It might.
That might. Okay.
How is it?
Good. What's wrong with it? What's fish?
Mary, we can hear you guys talking.
Sorry.
No, just wanted to warn you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There'll be one other thing that Jerry will bring up. Lynette,
Okay.
I was talking to you earlier today regarding, or was I? Luchas and liquor in the street on 6th. Then there's 2 issues regarding that. One
Okay.
is they need a modification of premises. And 2, there's the right-of-way issue. And the modification of premise can be administrative, but the anything in the right-of-way takes board action. So
Okay.
Jerry may have it as a discussion topic.
Okay.
Hey, John,
How you doing?
I didn't have a chance to tell you earlier regarding that Luchas issue.
Yeah.
There's 2 parts to that issue. One is the modification of premise. And then there's also in the right-of-way itself, within the street right-of-way,
Okay.
that if it's going to happen at all, that has to be approved by the board as well.
Okay.
And Jerry may bring it up just as a discussion topic about the right-of-way part of it, not the modification
Okay.
of premise, but the right-of-way part of it, and how
Okay.
that actually occurs. So
So would that end up being an action item next meeting,
yeah, it could
or
be.
does it take longer?
Yeah.
Gina.
So I just wanted, well, that's all right, John. You're okay.
No, I thank you. I'm gonna go cut this TV, and the kids are playing games all in this room. It's probably
I just wanted to make you aware before Jerry says something that you're aware that it could.
okay. Yeah. No, that's. Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask whose phone number is, whoop. Just went away. Sorry. Hi, can I ask whose phone number is 303-550-1784?
Hi, Jen. Yes, Gary.
Hey, Gary. Thank you.
I have no picture yet, though.
I'm just going to put your name on here so we know it's you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Lynette.
How are you doing, John?
Hanging in there. How about you?
Same here. Yes.
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
take the phone.
I think it would return this one, because it'd probably take you a long time to get through that one. Although it reads pretty fast, because it's good print, it's a good story.
Forest.
Oh, I'm coming back, baby.
If I go offline, you'll know why.
Is that like talk to the hand?
It's better looking than me.
Cute ears.
Ooh. Cute face.
He's 13 weeks.
Oh,
And what's his name?
This is Pumpkin.
Pumpkin?
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder how you
The other one's Trouble.
got, and pretty soon they'll both be something that we can't say on a meeting.
Right.
Where is everybody?
Well, this week it was easy to log in. Last time it was really hard.
Huh.
They
You're
kept blocking
becoming
me.
a pro.
Yeah, I'm a pro now.
Do you have a cell phone yet?
No. I'm thinking about it though.
Ooh. Waiting until the I-20 comes out in a few more years.
Yeah. I don't want to be behind everybody too far. Have you been playing pickleball, Mary?
I personally have not, but the group is starting to get over there again and starting up on a regular basis.
Do we just have the one net with the town, or is there another net floating around or anything?
We have one, and then the group that we were playing with regularly from the rec center, everybody pitched in and bought one, so we can have two going at the same time, so we can have 8 people playing. You gonna join us sometime?
Oh, you guys are way too fast for me.
hey, Rob.
Sorry I'm late.
We're all good.
It's okay.
Is there
So
a,
John Jennings, was I
Yes, sir.
stepping on your toes on the, not the Parks and Recs, planning commission thing?
What about it?
No, promotions, sorry, promotions.
Uh-huh.
Was I stepping on your toes at all?
I wish you would.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like, boldly going where I really shouldn't go.
I don't think that's possible. In fact, I'll help you along the way.
I'm not sure that that's ever stopped you, Rob.
He just likes to apologize first.
Yeah, no, I mean, realizing I got a lot of apologies to do. I'd start here.
It smooths
I
the
thought it was a
way.
bald guy thing.
I didn't
What, that I
say
haven't
anything.
shaved?
That wasn't me.
You're
I
too
said
good for us.
nothing.
No, but I think that the promotions has gotten off to a great start. Their effort is, pretty significant, and they want to be kind of whimsical about it. I think it's a good thing.
I don't take any credit for that.
There's no whimsy in the John Jennings household.
None.
Right on, right on.
Mm.
So there's an agenda item with regard to the water line that's being.
Added,
I was just gonna say are we up and running?
No.
No, we haven't come to order yet. We're still waiting for one more for a quorum.
I was just gonna
Excuse
say.
me, we are live on the town website though.
Right. So
Okay.
Okay.
let's just wait till the agenda item pops
You
up.
want me? Yeah.
Thanks.
Is it raining up there?
No, it's sunny.
Oh,
Well, we had a little thunder and a few drops, but it really didn't amount to much.
Are you getting any smoke, Jerry?
yeah. Over the last few nights, I have gotten some. I'm north of that fire by about 4 miles. It's actually in a drainage where I used to live, but it mostly is moving south. I think, it rained hard yesterday afternoon here, and it's raining now. So that's
Okay.
great.
Really?
That is
Time
good.
not
That's
to be
great.
better.
Yeah.
For the rain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have Keith has joined us, so we have a quorum. I'd like to get this, the meeting going. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Georgetown Board of Selectmen, July 14th, 2020. And are you arranging for a flag? I think Kent's headed for a
Yes.
flag.
He is.
Okay, give him a moment. And up the stairs he goes.
It'd be easier to just go outside.
All right. So if everybody would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rob, you really need to change that shot there.
All right. I'll do roll call now. I am Lynette Kelsey, Police Judge. Rob Connell.
Here.
Thank you. Keith Holmes.
Here.
John Jennings.
Here.
Paul Hingen's not here yet. Mary Smith.
Here.
And Tim Allen is not here yet. So, agenda approval. There are a couple of things that we wanted to add to the agenda. One is an invoice for the water main changes at Bighorn Crossing. Kent sent out that invoice a little earlier today. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to grab it. And then also I believe Jerry wanted to just mention some discussion on Lucha's liquor license and what changes might need to take place to bring that into full compliance with their new location, et cetera. So
If you'd like,
anybody?
I can do
Pardon?
that under the COVID-19
Sounds
staff
good.
item heading.
Sounds good.
Hey, Jen, would you do me a favor and please send me the agenda?
I can't right now because I am the host of this meeting and I can't.
Can
Get-
anybody else?
I can't leave this screen, sorry.
Yeah.
Got it,
no,
got
I'll
it.
try to
No, I
do that,
understand.
Rob. I'll try to do that, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All
Can
right,
we add an update on the 15th and Rose hole?
15th, you mean? Is that next to the
Oh,
no
the-
site?
Just as on a staff report for Kent, if he could give us an update on, you know,
Okay.
right there by the little, thank you.
Okay, anything else that anybody wants to add? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion?
Wait, I have a question. Are we
Yes.
not seeing the minutes to approve from our last special meeting? We-
Mary,
have
no,
minutes of-
I did not. Mary, I did not get those done. I'll have them ready for the next meeting.
So. All right, any for other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anybody for audience business, Jennifer?
I have not been told that anybody wants to speak.
Okay,
I don't know if we do have some attendees. Oh, someone does have their hand raised. Yanni, let me let him talk. Yanni, you can go ahead, Yanni.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, everybody.
good evening.
Yeah, good to see you again so soon. So I just wanted to make a brief comment. I don't think it's on the agenda, but I just like to put it on the board's radar regarding short-term rentals, everybody's favorite topic, I know. But this goes back to 300 Taos, where on that one stretch of street, there's 7 houses, and I believe 3 out of 7 are short-term. So I feel that the short-term rental situation contributes to part of the community, I'll call community corrosion, where it's not really community building, it's profit making for those who have that sort of disposable income to snap up these historic homes for short-term rental gain. So I would just like to propose to put that on the agenda, if possible, at some point, to consider new rules regarding the licensing procedure and perhaps the density within the wards, so that we can try to maintain more year-round or longer-term occupants of homes here in Georgetown. So that's my point there. And the other request would be, it seems like the last couple of meetings that I've attended here, I've had to scramble to get the meeting ID number for the Zoom meeting. So maybe under Board of Selectmen on the link on the website, that information could be had there, so it's more publicly accessible. I don't feel comfortable that I need to scramble and try to ask people for the meeting ID. So thank you for your time.
Yanni, I can speak to that. On the website, the agenda is listed with the link on it. with the webinar ID. So it should be pretty easy to, and it's also posted at Town Hall and the post office.
Okay, so yeah, Jennifer, if you could just direct me on the website, which is where I go most of the time, where I could find that, that'd be great. That way I wouldn't have to bother
Yeah.
friends for the number.
Let's talk
Okay.
later and I
Where
can direct
would
you
they-
and tell you exactly where to go.
Okay.
It's where
Sounds
you
good.
find the agendas. Yeah, okay. We'll talk
Okay,
later. Thank you.
Jennifer. Yep.
All right. Anything else, Yanni?
No, thank you. That was it for now, believe it or not.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Were we gonna hear something formally from the Business Promotions Commission, reference that email that we received the other day or today on their
Actually, I was
suggestions?
gonna throw that under the emergency order update since it's
Okay.
regarding Sixth Street closure
Okay.
and that's kind of our umbrella that covers that. But thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so if there isn't anyone else for audience business, let's move on. We have the payables. And the ones we have before us today are from June 24th to July 9th, 2020. Anybody have any questions? Mary Sims is with us, so she could answer questions if you had them.
I have one.
Yes, John.
Under special events and the promotions, the barricades and things for Sixth Street, was that worked out with the promotions? I don't remember that discussion, or is it just getting parked there for the CARES Act to replace that funding, or what's going on there?
Well, I had coded it to promotions because it is a special event and it's supplies for the special event. I don't believe that the orange and white barricades were charged there, just the yellow pedestrian barricades. If you had another suggestion as to where they should be charged to, I'm open to that.
No, I just think that, I mean, it's probably fine. I just think that maybe we should keep in mind the CARES Act on that, as a possible way to backfill some of that.
Oh, definitely, when that all comes to fruition, when we ask for our assistance, we can put that in with that amount and then it'll be credited back.
I would like that, if possible.
The other option that I was thinking of was to check into the CDOT grant program that was put in place specifically for closures of downtown streets for pedestrian walkways. I'm recalling an email that came out, so I'll dig back through there and make sure that we check that out and see if that applies, because that's a totally separate funding and it would be, it'd be nice to get reimbursed from there if it's possible. So
Appreciate it.
Does that also, do you know, Lynette, if that also includes just town streets rather than any kind of state roads?
Don't know for sure. I don't know the particulars.
Okay.
We'll talk, Mary.
Okie dokie.
All right. Sounds good. Any other questions on the payables?
No.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the payables as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the payables from June 24th to July 9th, 2020 as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. And then we have the minutes from our regular meeting of June 23rd. Are there any comments, questions, corrections?
I have a comment or correction on page 4, under the heading of the 6th Street pedestrian walkway, but on page 4, we should have Coral Lou and her store identified, even though we know for the minutes it should be identified.
Okay, I can add Nigel and Anderson as her store.
Okay.
And on the last paragraph under that same section,
Mm-hmm.
where the Board of Selectmen had discussion on the topic and agreed for 6th Street to become a pedestrian walkway on the trial basis,
Yeah.
I would like it to say the majority of the board.
Okay.
We had voted on that, and that was not a unanimous decision.
Okay.
And I also, and so we should probably throw in that we revise the previous decision that we had made.
Well,
I mean,
this is
it
from
addresses,
the regular meeting on June.
I know that. And so on June 23rd, oh, well, no, because on June 23rd is when it got changed.
Yes.
No.
So,
To weekends only.
Weekends
Yeah,
only.
that's right. That's right.
Correct.
so on June 9th, we were going to blanket it.
Yeah,
On June 23rd, we revised it. So
Okay.
that paragraph needs to reflect that it was revised to be enacted on the trial basis.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I can make that correction.
Okay.
Okay.
And I had a correction on the, on page 3, under the mask order. The motion mentioned both the wearing of masks being required in indoor public areas and in outdoor public areas where social distancing could not be met. So it needs to mention both of those.
And thank you, Lynette. I did go back and listen to the tape, and they were 2 motions, one for indoor and one for outdoor. So I will add the one for the
Okay.
indoor.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or corrections? I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 23rd, 2020 regular meeting as corrected.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the June 23rd, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Georgetown as corrected. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a couple of changes for the Parks and Rec Commission. Anshel Bomberger would like to be appointed regular member. He's currently an alternate member. And then Mary Brunel would like to be appointed as a alternate member. Anybody have any comments or questions on that? We could do both together, approved, or separately if you want.
I'll make a motion to approve both of them.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve both appointments for the Parks and Rec Commission as stated in the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you to Anshul and thank you to Mary. Next, we have resolution WWE-1, Series 2020, a resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving a fee schedule for water and sewer fees.
I will always be in favor of a water and sewer fee raise.
Well, it hits our agenda every July, so Kent, do you
Well,
want to? Do you
One
want
of the things I might want to purport on you guys. When you guys do this, the people that are watching are CDPHE. And one of the things that you guys don't realize is that whenever you guys want to apply for grants and you have your finances in order, just like what we're voting on right now, they look at that favorably and they will award grants towards people who have their ducks in a row, as opposed to other townships that I operate that don't.
Okay.
Thanks,
you,
Rob.
Mary Sims may want to speak on this, actually.
Okay,
I'll let her speak first and I can
all right.
supplement.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So this is the annual recommended increases according to our debt schedule that we have right now. It comes out to just under 3% for both water and sewer. And because of COVID and just nature of the beast, there are increases happening. Our chemical prices have gone up, plus our hazmat charges to deliver the chemicals. And, you know, water and sewer are both in a fairly good place right now. We can meet all our requirements with the loans we have as far as reserves. And it hasn't been a problem for the past 6 years. I just would hope that you'd take a good look at it. I realize it's another increase. However, we don't want to get in the situation that we were 10, 15 years ago, where it was a losing proposition every year. So that's about all I have to say with that.
All right, Mary, are you thinking that we might need to go up another % this next year?
No, I think Kent and I were talking earlier today, and, you know, with the hotel and the apartments and hopefully, you know, some more of the townhouses coming on for 2021, that maybe next July we won't have to raise it as much. Just we'll have a more steady, we'll have a bigger base, and maybe start dialing back a little, not reducing them, but maybe not having to increase them to such a degree every year.
Okay.
That'd be good news.
Okay, Kent, did you have anything to add?
Not really.
Okay. All right. If everybody has had a chance to look at that fee increase, it looked right on target to me. So any other discussion, questions? Would anybody like to make the recommended motion that's in our packet?
I'll carry that flag.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm going to read it then, since, so The motion as it appears in our packet is I move to approve resolution number WWE-1, series 2020, a resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving a fee schedule for water and sewer fees, just so that it's part of the record. So we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Informational item, we have the treasurer's report that was included. Anybody have any questions for Mary?
Kind of seems like we're hanging in there, Mary. Is that kind of what you're thinking? That we're not too far behind?
Surprisingly, things are plugging along pretty good. I think that some of the spending from the departments is, I mean, they're watching it, and we're not, you know, revenues may be a little bit down, but we're holding our own.
Okay.
That's great.
I went and did an additional calculation in the road and bridge fund, just because the sales tax improvement fund kind of skews the bottom line a bit when it hasn't been used, and it's a very large amount. So if you take out that road improvement plan, the remaining spending, then you have basically about an unexpended budget amount of about 59%. So that's pretty good. It just looked odd that because of that large amount in there. Anything else? Sales tax was surprisingly high for May, and we'll see what June comes in at.
It was, I guess the sales tax was better than expected. It
Mhm.
wasn't high. I wouldn't want to give
Okay.
the impression to the community.
Higher than
that-
expected, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were expecting much deeper cuts, or not as
Gotcha.
much collected
Yeah.
as far as sales tax, and it ended up about 8,000 less than last year's May. So it was ended up around 59,000 for this 2020 May 2020.
Okay.
So instead of about 67,000.
All right. Anybody have any other comments or questions on the treasurer's report? If not, we will move on. So we're into staff items. The COVID-19 emergency order update. Let's go ahead and open up discussion on the email, the recommendations from the Promotions Commission. I thought they had some great ideas.
And
I did-
Amanda, Steve was not able to attend. Amanda Cooper's here to talk on behalf of the business promotion if need be.
Okay, thanks. I did notice that the road construction closed barrier at the west end of the 6th Street pedestrian area right there at Argentine was traded out for some of the yellow barriers, and it looks much, much better, much more inviting. I would be in favor of getting some, welcome banners. I thought there was some discussion about maybe handing out flyers when people were either boarding the Loop Railroad to take their train ride, or as they got off, just to give them some information about the pedestrian area, where to find the parking, and what businesses can be found on that 6th Street pedestrian stretch. So I don't know if was that also discussed at the work session?
No.
Sorry, I will unmute. Hi,
Hi there.
how's everyone? Hi. So the work session was pretty comprehensive, and we focused on a lot of different aspects. As far as the relationship with the train right now, that was not a specific item on our agenda. What we brought forth today was really kind of the core of the goals that we have. We realize some of them are very lofty. I do think that we have some opportunities for low-hanging fruit with the train in particular, as well as the rafting companies. But for now, I think our goal was the immediate enhancement of the mall itself for the stakeholders on 6th Street. Did I freeze?
You did for a bit, but you're okay.
So I have a
Sorry.
question for clarification. And Amanda, I guess this really isn't addressed to you, but perhaps to Kent. I mean, I frequently try to drive down Rosenthal's and check it out and everything. But did I see something earlier that 6th Street between Griffith and Taos is open, or is it closed in front of the Hotel de Paris? Let's, in town hall.
We've had a couple issues with deliveries and stuff. I mean, there's deliveries to Happy Cooker, and there's also people that still, there's a couple parking spaces in between. It's not next to Town Hall, it's next to the yellow building, and then Happy Cooker. There's a parking area in there for people who are there, so they still get in and out of there. There's not regular traffic. We've had a couple issues with deliveries and are working through those. We've had to close the street after the delivery truck has left it open a couple different times. Working through it. That's about all I can say.
Okay, so, and I guess I just, from the comment about that, but then when I was reading these proposals from the Business Promotions Commission, obviously with the types of tables and chairs in the French style cafe look and everything, to me, my mind goes to the hotel, which I think is, one of the ideal places to have some of that. So I just wasn't quite certain about that. I support, a lot of these ideas that Business Promotions is suggesting here. And this might be a little bit premature, but just towards the end of the list where we were going to hit the social media and blitz with Georgetown being opened for business safely, I would just ask that someone work and tweak that phrase a little bit, because it doesn't really roll smooth. I think and I don't want to get into semantics, but maybe we're open safely for business, or I don't know, that just sounds awkward. And but otherwise, I think a lot of these ideas, most of these ideas, I'm not really against any of those ideas. So
Here you go. Here you go, Mary. Nearby and near perfect. Right?
Say again.
Nearby and near perfect. Right?
Rob, you have such a way.
Thanks so much. We're missing a few teeth, but geez, do you have to rub it in?
If there's one thing, could I jump in really fast?
Sure.
I know, I'm sorry, this is not my meeting, but we would like to see some accountability with Slate, which is, as I'm sure you all are aware, the commission or the agency that we hired to assist with our marketing. We think this is something that should be in their court for what we pay them. And so if there's something that Slate could maybe take on in this respect, this is a good time for them to show us what.
Good idea.
Put their money where their mouth is and put Georgetown on the map in our pedestrian mall.
And probably get, like, do they offer reports on their effectiveness?
Yeah, there's some.
Their monthly reporting, I would encourage, if anyone's interested in what Slate's monthly reporting is like, please attend our next meeting. They weren't on the last one because our last one was a special meeting. It was a work session, obviously. I think that there's some opportunity for Slate. They're very focused on the web-driven pieces, but this is a good opportunity for them to get some real analytics for us. We also have Kyle Rutten, who's local, who handles the website, and then
Yes.
Travis Bowles, our social media. Kyle's got a really great pulse on what happened, and so, but that's a great foundation, but that's something that Slate, we give them a lot of money to market us, and this is, in my opinion, their wheelhouse, and that was part of our aim.
But isn't Kyle a component of that?
No, he's separate. He's
Sorry, my
separate
child
from
wanted Jello.
Slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So what are you asking for us tonight for? What are you asking for from us? Talk about semantics.
Well, we obviously want consideration of all the line items. No, it's the truth. Consideration of all the line items, which we realize are costly. Hopefully there's components of the CARES Act that could be worked into that. And then the second piece would be accountability with our monthly.
We didn't hear you.
Muted, you're all right.
You were good.
All good.
I just have
I'm
one
very
question.
sorry. Everyone who's on a meeting with me endures my children. I apologize profusely.
Need an ambulance?
No.
Amanda, I
we're
understand
good.
you've been fired several times.
So
I have. It's kind of a theme.
Hey, Amanda, I think maybe the promotion should give a little more direction on what they want Slate to do, rather than from us, kind of. I think it's kind of promotions driven.
That we can do that.
How about also, we have special event money, maybe we could fund a little bit of this stuff since we're not doing other things. Might want to bring it up at the meeting that, maybe we could help with getting some of this stuff done, and then maybe CARES Act will pay us back or not, but at least it'll start happening.
So Kent, you had some comments?
Amanda, unless you have something to say right now, you can go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay. I was just going to go through as far as the items that were mentioned from the Business Promotions Commission. The barriers, I've already ordered the yellow pedestrian rail barriers so they can be removed, the type 3 construction barricades. They should arrive the end of this week, so maybe by the weekend. The grants to 6th Street merchants to help offset the cost of extending their storefronts onto the sidewalk and street. There would be a question of where that could come from or how much would be used and how often, but it's an excellent idea to help, provide some impetus for some additional stuff to happen regarding it. The non-6th Street merchants, they open up or designate available space in pedestrian law to allow non-6th Street merchants to set up their own space to market. And I'm just kind of saying this also for the public because this was given to the board, but wasn't part of the package. There's a couple things that would need to be clarified regarding that, but it certainly could be worked out to be able to be done. The signs, the special event coordinator Carolyn and myself are already, Carolyn more than me, but working on that, trying to get that taken care of, or at least on the way to taking care of. The furniture and fixtures, that will take a little more effort. That's a little more long range goal than an immediate thing. We'll look and see the possibility, but instead of the picnic tables. They had also asked if there could be, I don't like to say cleansing, but to clean the tables that are there.
Sanitation, yeah.
Sanitation of the
sanitizing.
tables. We are doing that. Kevin's been instructed to do that on a daily basis.
As long as you don't use ethnic in front of it, you're fine.
You know,
No.
I wouldn't even say any such words. But there's been some instruction regarding that. As far as strategically place additional flowers, we have a lot of flowers already that we're taken care of, but it is an excellent idea, but it's just the maintenance of every day taken care of. Strauss Park and Library Park better incorporate both corners into pedestrian mall by extending Library Park tables and chairs into pedestrian mall. Complete previously approved temporary lights for Strauss Park, encourage Library Park to follow same lighting scheme as Strauss Park, and open up Strauss Park booths for appropriate vendor use to encourage vendor participation. There's a couple things about how to connect that from Strauss Park and Library Park onto the street, but it's an idea worth pursuing. The trash cans will be followed. The open containers encourage food and drink to go from all town restaurants by allowing food and properly packaged alcohol to be consumed in pedestrian mall, Strauss Park and Library Park. The alcohol question is much harder question. The food's not a problem, but
why is alcohol a problem?
When there's too much of alcohol, but
okay, no, I understand.
Or when there's, just like today, when I walked down and talked with Nick Quintana with Luchas a couple different times, there's a number of kids that obviously come to our town all the time. So there's a separation of the adults and the kids regarding that type of area. So
got it. Okay.
Some people don't view it that way, but that it's just a policy question. And Jerry was going to speak about it in general regarding Luchas. How that fits in regarding the pedestrian mall. And then the promotion, there's always discussion, but I like your suggestion, Amanda, regarding how to really cue that up. So
just one question, and I didn't want the conversation to get away from it, but what is pipe and socket barriers?
Well, that was the other thing at bollards. I did investigate at the very beginning when we were considering what type of barricades to put up. And I can bring a quote next time to give you an idea of it, but it's going to end up between $10,000 and $20,000 to do.
They were expensive.
So
if you're familiar with like Washington Park, Rob, it's like the kind of barriers like they have a lot in Denver, where the parks that have like the wide roadways have a barrier that goes like it's in the concrete and it's like down there. So it's fit and it's got it has a nice cohesive look, but when it is necessary, like for a jazz park, for example, it comes out.
Got it.
It can be easily removed either by key or by just pulling it out.
No, I jumped to that conclusion. Just wanted to clarify.
Did you have a comment, Keith?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Those were looked at when we were looking to set things up as quickly as possible, and they were significantly more expensive. So it means a lot more. And at the time that we were setting this up, we didn't know what kind of funding might be out there to get reimbursement. So that's why they were not first choice. They still can be looked at. I would make a request that as we are, as a board and as town staff is looking into how to fund the things that would need to be funded here in the request, that the promotional launch not be delayed until that all happens. I would really like the promotional launch to forge ahead, because I don't think it needs to wait for I don't think it needs to wait for a lot of these other things that we can fund as we find funding and get them in place. Just, that's my thoughts.
I agree with that.
I would just like to throw in too, I certainly agree with waiving any fees associated with permits over at Strauss Park to encourage private vendors to come in and to add to the whimsy of the town in the summer. However, I would assume or say that we have to be collecting, they have to be collecting tax revenue for us by doing that. That's come up in other situations. So I think we still need to make sure that that's being properly done, whether it's for temporary, license or whatever. I know Mary can stay on that.
And to add to that, whatever business license is required, they should get, so.
We discussed that in our meeting and our work session, and we were all very much on board with the fact that we needed to make sure that whoever was there in the Strauss Park area, because it was brought up that the school was maybe a possibility to come in and do brats, and food trucks were brought in to do things like that, that they had to be doing sales tax and having their licenses. So.
But the school is exempt because you're a nonprofit. But if, ABC Jewelry comes, they need to be participating in the state and our town sales tax, as would a food truck. So, I like whoever mentioned that, we need to get moving on this, because otherwise I know business promotions isn't meeting unless you're having another special session, until, the beginning of August, and we don't meet again for another couple of weeks. And, summer's going to be over, and we don't want that to happen without a lot of these things going into place. And I would like to see that we're trying to figure out how we can tackle that elephant in the room by allowing food and properly packaged alcohol to be consumed, as opposed to setting up more obstacles for that. That would give Georgetown a little bit of an add, that some of the other towns don't have that.
Mm-hmm. How difficult I'm addressing this to Jerry, how difficult is it to modify what we've got on the books for liquor licensing and making it more flexible?
Sure. The statute presently lets you authorize by ordinance, resolution, or rule the consumption of alcohol in any public place that you own. It carves out of that public rights of way. That's the statute. But on June the 5th, the governor, in one of his many executive orders, entered in an order suspending that carve out, which means that you can authorize by ordinance, resolution, or rule, which could be as easy, I assume, as a motion declaring a rule, the consumption of alcohol in the public right of way. And here we're talking about 6th Street. So there's really two actions that the town would need to take to allow that to happen on 6th Street. First, implement the authority granted by the governor in that order to authorize by ordinance, resolution, or rule the consumption of alcohol in a public right of way, 6th Street, between X and Y locations. Obviously, I think you probably want to define between which streets on 6th Street. And secondly, once that's authorized, you're not all the way there. If you're a liquor licensed premises, you still need to get a modification of premises to allow you to be out there, separate and apart from the underlying authority from the town. So it's two things. Modification of premises, we've been allowing, and that's something we can do administratively, that the staff can do administratively.
Okay.
But only the board could say alcohol's okay in 6th Street between this point and that point. And that's kind of a social policy decision. Not only do you want to have it in the street, but if so, what segments of the street do you want to allow it in? I don't know. I don't think the town has permitted, have they, Kent, alcohol, or maybe John can say in public parks, open consumption in public parks. I don't think we allow that. And that's not on the table here. And so I don't want to open it up if it isn't open. But on 6th Street, two things. The board would have to say alcohol's okay on 6th Street, within these blocks by a resolution, let's say, and then individual liquor licensees would need to come in for modification of premises to show, where out there in the street they're going to allow that.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I have a question. So if our municipal code prohibits alcohol consumption in our parks, if we wanted to allow consumption and people to be able to wander into just Strauss Park, not any of the other parks, is that going to take a full out ordinance to change that?
It is, because it's in place as an ordinance, and even under conceivably you could use the power you granted Kent, as you might recall, to waive the application of town laws. Come to think of it, you could use that, just like it's been used a couple of times already. And I think I don't have a right to hand, but I think your resolution back from March authorizing Kent to take actions included waiving certain town rules. He's been, I think, understandably wary of using that power, and has used it generally where you told him that's okay with us. You could probably do an emergency ordinance about as fast as you could direct Kent to issue an order in 2 weeks. If you wanted it to happen tomorrow, then some direction to Kent tonight to use that power would be advisable.
But if we were going to do an ordinance to that effect, it would need first and second reading. So it needs at least 2 meetings, doesn't it?
It does, unless you did an emergency ordinance.
Oh, okay, okay.
Under the charter. And this is the circumstance where an emergency ordinance would be appropriate. It's timing.
Okay.
To complicate it further, I suppose you could direct Kent to issue a town administrator's order for the next 2 weeks, and then consider an emergency ordinance next meeting. If you really wanted to have alcohol in the parks come tomorrow. But, and of course, that wouldn't require modification of premises. You're just allowing people to bring their own liquor to the park. 6th Street is a different issue, I assume, that you'd only be allowing liquor there as a result of a liquor licensee that wanted to serve in the street, and unless Kent is about to say something different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just going to say, this is 2 separate issues. The luchas, if it's about luchas, I don't know if it really is. The discussion's more about alcohol in general. But luchas is a separate issue that we have not received a modification of premise application from them as yet. Although we talked to them about that today because of issues. And but the alcohol in the street right away is a separate issue if it was going to be allowed at any point. That's something that probably needs to be taken care of, and it probably would be better. I don't know, Jerry's suggesting the emergency order, but that there's proper procedure followed regarding it. So that's about all.
Yes, Mary.
If we're encouraging the food and drink to go from our businesses, and this is why we're doing it, at this point, unless someone wants to convince me different, I would like to see the alcohol piece, and I know it's an enforcement issue, and I'm not trying to add that, but I would like to see it where we're looking at it because it's been distributed from one of our businesses, and that's why they're taking it in. I don't really necessarily want, well, of course, that's the liquor store too. I was gonna say, I don't want people just packing in and going to Strauss Park and, you know, popping open whatever, but then I'm
Now,
limiting.
how do you
the
differentiate
store.
Yeah.
Well, I know, you know, so I guess I'm answering my own question as
And the
I,
other thing is that really a real concern? I mean, do we have a high instance of people doing that?
well,
Well,
we don't
currently,
know.
no, because it's not allowed.
Because it's
No,
illegal
but I mean, I
now.
would like, you know, we'd like our
just
own
don't think-
businesses to be participating in this. This is encouraging business in Georgetown. You know, by the time you bring your beer up from Denver, hopefully it's warm, and so you're not gonna do that. You're gonna get your alcohol and beverages here, like from Cooper's or Gwinnett.
Yeah, I you know, just from the spirit that I've taken a pulse of downtown on a Saturday. Not everybody, you know, it's not like it's spring break. Freaking, it's nothing like that. This is just, you know, something that's a matter of convenience. It's really just so you can go between one bar and another. But honestly, we don't have that many bars.
True, true.
You know, Tim Hammond's doing a great job with music. Honestly, the vibe could be a little more whimsical if you ask me. But, you know, the alcohol content, I don't think, you know, that, and John, you know, back me up on this. Have you had a lot of alcohol incidents in the last couple of weeks?
You know, we're having an increase in issues at some of the liquor establishments. Yes, we're having alcohol issues at the lake, of course. We're having disturbances related to some of these establishments. Anytime you factor in alcohol, that is the potential. Now, here's what we have. We have an increase in calls this year, in spite of COVID-19. We are way up on call outs at night. We are overworked, we are overstressed, and we don't know where the light's at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
If you factor in more alcohol, we're just not going to be able to keep up, I'm afraid. It's going to be a problem. That's with what we have resource wise. So my vote obviously would be to not allow that. Somebody mentioned increase in speeders. Absolutely, it's a line of traffic up Gwinnett, down Gwinnett. Nobody is stopping at stop signs. We're writing as many tickets as we possibly can to help out the neighbors who are having legitimate complaints about this issue. We factor in more issues and more complaints, and it becomes out of control, and we can't keep up.
Thank you. I was going to ask for your input. Thanks very much. Amanda, you had some more comments?
Wrong button. The only thing I was going to offer, and this is certainly obviously before I heard John's remarks, because we as a business community don't have any interest in overburdening the police with what they already have going on. But I would say from my standpoint, last week, we sold a dozen alcoholic beverages to go because we're tracking them, and we put the sticker on that says that you're not supposed to drink it anywhere else. It's not licensed. There's an LED sticker that actually is like placed over. We're being very conscious of that. I obviously can't speak to the restaurant community, but we're still obligated by the rules of our liquor licenses to ensure that we're not serving minors, that we're not serving people who are visibly intoxicated. All of the rules still apply. I would hope that we could find a compromise for the consumption for the responsible adults that just want to sit outside. And when we don't have enough outdoor seating, which is a huge issue in Georgetown. And again, we have a kind of a running tally of the number of people that leave the building because they can't sit inside, not because we have people that are not wanting air conditioning. when we're encouraging those people to take to-go food, to let a responsible adult have a beer feels reasonable to us. Now, we certainly don't want to, again, overburden the already great guys that are working really hard. But if we could find a compromise that would still remind restaurants and bars that we are responsible for our service. I mean, I would never hand someone a 6-pack to go unless I was looking at 6 adults. That would never cross my mind. I may not be every bit established, but I would like us to find a compromise that would allow all of us to be able to provide responsible consumers the means to drink alcohol on 6th Street.
So John, could this possibly occur? That there are people that would target towns that have an open container policy and then choose to binge there because the laws are relaxed?
Well, it's certainly the law, the law of probability, I guess, given the amount of traffic, the volume of traffic we're seeing now. You certainly have that potential for people to gather and after coming down from the mountains and drinking alcohol, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. I've just done this for so long, and I know the issues with alcohol, and you can't say, hey, these are good people, these are irresponsible people, let's keep them, we can't weed that out. And it's just once you've opened that door, it's very hard to close again if we find that it overtaxes our resources. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
I guess the way I'm looking at it, from what you've shared with us, it's sounding like you guys are overtaxed already. And I wouldn't be in favor. I think it's not a huge hardship to either sell liquor to go, as Amanda has described it, which is allowed under the current orders from the governor, but to allow people to just wander with their drinks. I think it has the potential to increase the burden on law enforcement, and I would hesitate to go there at this time. There's already plenty on the plates.
I agree with that.
I want to kill this yet, though. I'd rather see some of our other liquor establishments be able to participate in this conversation with us. I know we're meeting again in 2 weeks. I hate to drag this out, but I think that, some input, some more conversation with them. I think maybe if we had limited hours on it and we were just doing it when we're encouraging people to use 6th Street and, when the shops are open, so we're pretty much shutting it down at, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And I don't know if that helps in a situation where someone's off the beaten path and, and I'm going to use Cooper's, Amanda, I'm going to, use you as a point of reference. If that is of any benefit to you, if your outside seating is already full, or maybe we take it in those baby steps and try it, during the shorter daylight hours, or we close it down at 6 o'clock. So someone can grab a beer at Guanella Pass, or, walk with that margarita from Lucha's once they get their thing going, or a Bloody Mary from Cooker, whatever is down there. I would like to get, this meeting, it was hard for a lot of people to get onto this meeting because the link wasn't properly published. So I don't want to stop this conversation because our businesses can't participate and tell us all these answers that we're maybe have. With respect to law enforcement, I get it.
From what I understand, if your square footage is taken away from you on the inside, you're afforded that square footage outside, from what I understand. Now, I may be paraphrasing and certainly getting it completely wrong. Jerry, I guess you probably could speak a lot better to me than I can. But from this standpoint, I thought there was a even exchange from square footage inside to square footage outside to the curb.
Well, yes, that's true for restaurant seating. But remember, for the service of alcohol, that's still a modification of premises, which we can do administratively, but it's still a modification of premises. And so it's not automatic just with the seating, the ability to serve outside alcohol.
So, yes, Kent?
There's two people in the attendees, Gary and Steve, that have raised their hand to speak. If you'd like them to speak.
Okay. Looks like Gary was first.
I am alone. Yeah. Go ahead, Gary. Are you there, Gary? Are you there, Gary? Okay, we'll come back to you. I guess we'll take Steve.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
You need to unmute yourself.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I guess the only, what I just wanted to briefly say, and again, I appreciate what John Gaskin said. But in general, I see it hopefully as kind of the horse in front of the cart or the chicken before the egg. In the effort to create a more vibrant commercial area downtown, that would have the presumably it would help facilitate, even in a more broader sense, not just sales tax on alcohol, but the entire business is getting lifted up a little bit by having this vibrant pedestrian mall. I'd like to see nothing more than those type of incremental funds, if there are funds, to help beef up John and Randy and their team. These are real problems, and we've got some really good ideas. It's just a matter of trying to figure out. Once again, it all boils down to money, and that's a real challenge. But the idea behind us putting a lot of our effort forward in Business Promotions Commission is dealing with the reality of you can't just do things for free. You got to pay for them, and our idea of paying for them is to drive revenue through taxes. So I have no solution, I have no suggestion, but from a long-term perspective, perhaps this kind of ties in well to say, how does the town allocate funds, and if we can get more help with the police forces, that then in turn help us generate more revenue out, to justify other projects. And then second of all, the brewery has always sold beer to go. We sell it in cans, and again, it's kind of a different model. I think people are used to that. They don't just pop it open when they leave the brewery and guzzle it down. That's your Joe 6-pack crowd. The guy's looking for a case of PBR for the same price I charge for a couple of tall cans of craft beer. And I do think the crowd we're talking about, although John correctly distinguish them up front, for the most part are going to be more responsible. But that doesn't solve John's problem, and it's a real problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Gary, are you ready?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I finally got the audio hooked up here. I had a question on the list that you received from promotions. What are the priorities that we should be working on?
That's pretty open-ended.
Like we had this long list of all the stuff from promotions that we recommended. Like, are we working more on the barriers, or does anybody discuss like porta potties that we also need and stuff like that?
No
Those
mention was
recommendations
made.
would come from promotions. Did you guys prioritize?
Because I wasn't able to go to the work session, but I just received this letter from promotions through Steve about the barriers and the merchant grants and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't sure exactly if all this was going to be approved or what the status of this was.
We went through the list earlier, Gary, and talked about them as far as which ones can be accomplished right now, and then need some further direction on a couple others. It's, as far as priorities, I don't know if we can do them all here within 2 to 3 weeks. That's not really possible, but
Right, yeah.
the board had a favorable opinion. I don't know if you heard that part of, and I didn't hear any of the board members disagree with Mary who said that comment, as far as liked all the suggestions that were given. Obviously, some of the funding sources for a couple of them need to be identified and put into practice to be able to do it. So,
Right, like we were just talking about possibly doing alcoholic beverages in the designated area between the barriers on 6th Street and maybe Strauss Park, but who would police that if that was approved?
that's what the discussion's been for the last few minutes, Gary.
Right,
So,
so.
And
I've been
Gary-
kind of missing some of the discussion because of the link.
okay.
Sorry about
Okay.
that. So,
So
any,
John,
go ahead, Mary.
John Gaskins, not John Jennings.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't know if you saw the question from Amanda. She asked if, and I don't know if you have this information off the top of your head, if you cited a lot of people with alcohol from the restaurants.
Well,
She had asked that to the
we
panel.
don't, we try not to cite for, the alcohol violation itself unless there's a, an additional issue or issues stemming from that single violation. Because we don't want to, put a bad taste in the mouth of the patron towards the establishment or the town itself. So when it comes to alcohol, the mere possession or open container, we try to issue warnings unless something else is complicating it. We don't have a whole lot with that, but as I wrote in a response, if I had the resources, I would dedicate an officer on the weekends to do DUI patrol. And from what I hear, from what some of the members of the community are telling me, I think we'd have a high probability of DUIs on a nightly basis. If it's and that's what I'm afraid of with adding alcohol to the somewhere else, is we're going to increase that problem, and we're trying to keep people from getting hurt, especially again you're mixing vehicles in close proximity to pedestrian traffic, and we don't want anybody to get hurt, and that's what we're trying to prevent.
I understand that, but do you have any anecdotal information that a person has purchased alcoholic beverages from a restaurant, taken it to go, and then there's been an incident that you have
No.
been involved in?
No, usually there's
So-
no alcohol. We haven't had any issues with it all.
Okay, I mean, because that's far different than somebody going to a bar or restaurant and drinking in their usual mode compared to what we're looking at as an unusual application of drinking and where.
And right, in a park that's not really, observed by, say, a bartender who has a legal and statutory obligation to contact law enforcement when there's a disturbance and to shut them down when they've had too much to drink, or a lot of the bars here have designated drivers, and they refer people to this designated driver. Wouldn't have any of that. They would really be out there on their own, and that's where we have the issue.
Right, but you can't you don't know at this point from your own stops, your own contacts, in the conversations that you've had with your offenders, that they've obtained the alcohol, drank it off site, and then that's what's, I mean, the alcohol from a restaurant or whatever, not,
No, we haven't had any
Okay.
stops like that.
okay.
So, do we have any other input from the other board members present about opening up to letting people wander with their drinks and their food, or keep it more contained? Any strong feelings?
Hey, Lynette, this is Randy. Can I talk for a second?
This is Randy who?
Randy
Randy
Williams.
Williams.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm out of town and got onto this meeting pretty late. So I got just a gist. I don't want to cover what's already been said by Sergeant Gaskins or said or not said, but on the subject, I think before any decisions are made, we have to research on what we are allowed to do more completely. Because the areas that are brought up for examples of this kind of activity happening are in the metro area and in Denver mostly, or in big cities, and they've had to go through a lot more than just a few hoops to make it happen than just a board decision. So I think we need to research it a little bit more before we just jump on and say this is going to be planned.
Okay.
And that's all I have to offer on this.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
Please.
John or Keith, any strong feelings?
I don't have any strong feelings, I guess, so far. I mean, I really want to help the restaurants, you know, with what we can do, but I don't want to create, you know, a nightmare scenario with the police department.
Mhm.
That's exactly how I feel about it.
Okay.
Hey,
Alright.
John, what about
Yes, sir.
how about speed bumps at you know, where Rose Street crosses 6? Is there some way we could just slow the traffic down? Just do something like that?
I think speed bumps have been brought up in the past. I'm not sure where the hiccup is, but it's, you know, speed bumps, in my opinion, help for sure. And it's not really a lot of, and they do. There are people who speed. We have caught those. The stop sign violations are egregious. But you know, and they even make portable speed bumps as well. You know, if in the winter time, you know, plows have difficulty getting over certain speed bumps, you know, you can pull them up, and that's not really when we have the problem in the wintertime. And then reapply them in the summer, I think would be a feasible option.
The reason I bring it up is that, you know, now that we have a walking mall, maybe we need to really make sure that people are stopping at that stop sign, and a speed bump might help. I don't know, just especially there.
Right, right. Yeah, that's been a multiple complaints every day of this weekend was failure to stop at the stop sign. And it is dangerous. You do have people crossing the barriers to get to another section of 6, and cars are just flying through the stop sign, through the intersection. And I posted Officer Legier there both Saturday and Sunday, a majority of the day. But we have other issues in town that require 2 officers for safety. And but after that was concluded or resolved, you know, he would come right back to the mall area and to work traffic, and he wrote significant number of tickets. I believe he commented 15. I wrote about that many as well. We don't always, we're not Morrison PD, so we're not writing every single individual a ticket out there that we stop, but we are certainly writing a lot of people tickets who genuinely deserve it.
Hey, Kent, what would it cost? Could you check out the cost of putting in some mobile speed bumps or something for?
Do they make like temporary or portable stop lights? Like generator driven ones?
Yes, they do.
Would that be another feasibility?
Oh, I can check into it.
Did you hear that, John?
I like the speed bump idea better
Sorry,
than
my
a
TV
stop
cut
light.
on. I had to cut it off. There was a mention about portable stoplights, I believe.
Yes.
What was the first part of the question?
Would they be feasible?
Well, I mean, they take up quite a bit of room if you've ever seen them on a construction site.
Right.
You've got you've got obviously the generator on this trailer, and they kind of arch over the roadway. So I'm not sure where we would have room for something like that. But you know, they might benefit. I mean, you know, people are not going to stop at a stop sign. They're going to 2 or 3 or 4 of them will blow that red light.
Would a flashing red light on top of the stop sign help at all?
You know, to give it visibility, I did give a guy a ticket, a couple of people a ticket. They said, well, we never saw the stop sign, but what I think is they were following the person in front of them rolling through the intersection and believing that, well, there was no control device there at that intersection. So giving it some visibility would definitely work. And I think cost effectiveness would be much cheaper to put a solar light on top of a stop sign or multiple stop signs than to, you know, rent a portable stoplight. I don't know how much they go for, but I'm sure not cheap.
I have a lot of concern for the pedestrians, I guess, just because you know, they're thinking that it's a mall and they're just wandering around. But they may not be paying attention, just like the people running the stop signs.
So I also thought about creating a more like a crosswalk that, and you know, it might need some more signs to alert people, the vehicle drivers, that they need to yield to the pedestrians in the crosswalk. People blast through those a lot, but it might be one more layer, just something to look into.
Hey, this is Rudy again. And John is right. John Jennings is, the speed bumps are a good idea, and I think they're our most viable. The town already somewhere previously has owned portable speed bumps that we put at different places. They were pretty abrupt. I think if we shopped a little bit, we could probably find something just a little smoother, and maybe just a little more signage that there is a stop ahead, both markings on the ground if we could get more ground paint, and we might need to put up some stop ahead signs in some different places.
Okay.
We'll get some additional staff will look at some additional traffic controls at that intersection and get something taken care of there.
Yeah.
I think a couple folks had additional comment, if you want to allow it, Lynette.
Well, I think, you know, the comments that I'm seeing are, you know, kind of typical, that there are a lot of people who, even after they get through the downtown area, they're continuing to speed down rows. They're speeding past my house. I sometimes can't even stand to be out in the front, and I feel compelled to gesture people to slow down, and sometimes that they actually pay attention, because there's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit right next to my yard. So it's not like they can say, well, I had no idea. But there are others who go ahead and step on the gas because they're not being very neighborly. So anyhow,
Lynette, Amanda and Steve were the ones that had raised their hand to say
okay.
something.
I'll jump in before Amanda, real quick.
Okay.
And I just texted it to everyone, but would the diligent writing of speeding tickets and the diligent writing of tickets for running stop signs help offset the cost of additional patrol, additional officers?
No. If you're talking about one officer, again, I assigned Officer Legier to the south side of town for that specific purpose. Speeding on Rose, especially in the mall area and Guanella Pass, or Rose and 2nd Street, because we get so many complaints. But he's having to get pulled off and we had issues where we had warrant arrests this weekend at the lake. We had other issues at the lake, and he's having to get pulled off of that duty to cover, and then he goes right back. Basically, it's the town is the popularity of the town is growing, I believe. I've seen it this year. I saw it last year. I've seen it more this year. I think as that happens, then we have to bolster the infrastructure to accommodate. We're just where we're at right now. It's not, in my opinion, for our agency. Speaking for my agency, where we could be. I think another, at least one other officer could generate his own salary in just the traffic patrols, given what we're facing today.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. Would hiring one or two more officers without pulling them on other assignments, they're the traffic officers and they're there to write tickets for people who are disobeying the traffic laws, and they're not the people that are getting pulled off for other.
Certainly, if we had those resources, if I had two officers who could work the north side of town, obviously for safety reasons, and then I could assign a third officer specifically to traffic for the day. I wouldn't have a problem with that. It was, feasible and safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, Steve. Amanda?
My question was answered in the chat. I was curious about the number of people that Randy and John and Jim had possibly cited with open containers from restaurants. And it sounds like that was just more in relation to the previous conversation.
Yes, Kent. You'd need to unmute.
To wrap this up, possibly, as far as the business promotions with their list of things, the one item on it I could see that might be something more immediate is, should staff look for where grants that could be given to merchants on 6th Street Mall to purchase additional thing? Would that be possible or not? Should that be a priority for staff to get that taken care of within the next couple weeks? Or within the next
I think it would be a good idea to at least, as the first step, put out a survey very quickly to, I know the businesses are kind of being bombarded by surveys these days, but to just put it out there, if we were able to fund and assist in expanding your business out onto the sidewalk, out into the street, would you be interested? Would that cover some of your expense? And if everybody says, yeah, great, or even a few, I'm in favor of moving in that direction, if we can. If everybody says, no, absolutely not, it doesn't work for me, I'm not interested, then we move on and put our efforts and energies elsewhere. So, but I think it's a great suggestion. So to recap, if I'm understanding, I think the board was in favor of just about everything that was on here. The hitch came when we got to open containers and what what needs to be done in order to allow that and how that impacts our law enforcement team that exists. And so I guess I'm gonna go ahead and ask if we have a motion to direct staff to proceed to put that emergency ordinance together for our next meeting, so it can be further discussed. There's nothing that says we have to vote, approve the ordinance or not, but if we want to go in that direction and we want to put it in place in time to actually take advantage of it, I almost think we need to do it at the next meeting. So is there anybody who'd like to make that motion?
Are we talking the alcohol piece? I just want to
Yes.
clarify.
Yes.
I would make that motion to direct staff to provide some information, contact some of our restaurant owners, and so that we can further discuss this and proceed at our next meeting, July, whatever.
Does your motion include actually drafting an emergency ordinance, or do you just want to discuss it at the next? Okay,
Yes, I'd think that emergency ordinance.
okay,
I'll
Is there-
second that.
okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded to direct staff to proceed to draft an emergency ordinance that would allow expansion of the alcohol consumption into what's currently public areas, and to have a further discussion at our next meeting. Any further
Yeah, could I mention one other thing to be looked at while we're waiting between the meetings? Possibly having, I don't know, John, do the rangers still exist or whatnot that we could have on the weekend, at least some patrol down the mall if we did this, that would allow at least a law enforcement presence that could keep a handle on the thing?
Yes, sir. They do exist. They are looking for a year where before they were strictly volunteer, and they are volunteer still, but now they're looking for, I believe it's a $3,000 a year price of the contract. But they're certainly valuable, and we can certainly use them. And they do have a place in the Georgetown community at times.
Can you update us on what exactly they'd need and what the cost would be so that we could also look at that for our promotion type stuff?
Yes, sir. I can get with the contact I have, who's the commander of this area. So I'll get with him, and and then I'll have that by next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Lynette.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded to proceed with this drafting of the ordinance and further discussion at our next meeting, and bring together more information and more business input. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, any other COVID-19 emergency order updates that we need to talk about? I don't know if anybody has noticed, but there's a variable messaging sign that's been brought into Georgetown. It's on Argentine, just to the south of the visitor center, that during the week, it's going to have a census enrollment message. And then on the weekends, it's going to promote the wearing of masks. So.
Can I ask a question about to Kent, or perhaps the board would like to make this more, or coming from us, can we contact the county and see if on the I-70 electronic signs that, in addition to the fire ban and everything else that's going on in the county, that we say that masks, we had addressed this at our last meeting, I mean, just the mask issue, that, that masks are, you know, required in Clear Creek County. Perhaps if it comes from our town administrator or it comes from the Board of Selectmen. I think the local signs are great, but the more we can, you know, get the public to notice it, unless it's been up the last day or two, and I haven't been on I-70, so.
I haven't either, but that's been proposed in the COVID policy, the COVID-19 policy group. There, that's already part of the plan. So thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Any other COVID related? Okay. Then we will move on. Kent had provided us with, oh dear, some costs on concrete curb and drain pan proposal by Hendrick Concrete. Hydrick, sorry. It was in here, yes. You wanna?
This was just a, had requested over, I tried to get a concrete company while things were shut down. That did not work out. It would have been much better, but it didn't work out. And eventually, this is a person that actually has a second home up in Georgetown. So talked to him last year regarding a proposal regarding concrete curbs and asked him again this year. This is different regarding 4 curbs in a little larger area around one of the curbs in the downtown, in the 6th Street area, and also a couple different areas along Griffith, just north of or just south of 8th Street, where the 8th Street bridge comes over. That bridge was raised. It's causing a drainage problem into the Knox household at the corner there, causing a pretty severe problem. So this is regarding those different things. I didn't get, didn't have this as a complete action item in the, because I didn't receive it until just the day of the packet, but I did want to include it, so it's at least a discussion item. There's urgency regarding the 8th Street stuff, but as far as the downtown curbs, they need to be fixed, but they will be, and I've already talked with the owner about that they would be done on days where there's less pedestrian and vehicle traffic, obviously, in the downtown. Although there's times when you can't guess that, but trying to do it as quickly, get in and out as quickly as possible, because it's been, these 4 different curbs are been a problem for over a year, more than a couple years, and have a proposal to take care of them.
Okay.
So.
And that's going to be funded out of the road improvement funds. Is
Road
that
improvement fund,
correct?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And since our sales tax is doing okay, thought we haven't decided yet any regarding any additional road projects, but this is something that can get done easily within our current budget. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to put out just a regular census update. Georgetown has reached a level that is just slightly over the 2010 self-reporting. We are at 48.7% as of the last reporting from Ulakar and Johnson. And so keep up the good work. If there's any ideas, she's always looking for new ideas of places they can set up self-reporting stations, if just in case people don't have computers, and how to get the word out to people. And so if you have ideas, please get them to her. And then Mary wanted an update on the 15th Street repairs.
There's something that's taken far too long. We contacted the contractor that the Millside Homeowner Association is contracted with on Friday. We also contacted them beginning this week, and there was actually people there today actually fixing what they need to get fixed, because we said by the end of this week it needs to be done so we can get the street back to normal or somewhat normal, and or at least filled in so it's not an open hole sitting there. Both the staff and myself have had serious concerns regarding the contractor, trying to work with them to get it resolved, and there at least were people there today. So seems like pushed hard enough that they are taking care of it now.
Good.
So in a case like this, if this isn't taken care of, because I know we've all heard this before, is there a way that our crews can at least fill in the hole and we can light up that barricade a little bit better and then just charge back the company that was supposed to do it?
We can fill it. Yes, we can fill it. Then they'd have to dig it up again. Or we could have, more than likely, if they hadn't come today, we were getting to the point where we were going to go ahead and do it and start having a much more expensive cost to the homeowners association. So yes.
Well, it's my understanding in the past, though, when situations like this have come up, if we have to take charge of it and we bill it back to that company, if there's work again in Georgetown, then maybe they don't work again in Georgetown until they pay us what they owe to fix the street. So thanks. I appreciate the update.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Yes, Ken.
Lynette, regarding the Hedrick concrete proposal, are you guys
Yes.
okay with that? First of all.
Oh, yeah,
Like-
sorry, we blasted along. Yeah,
I am.
head nods.
Yep.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
And then we have the water main, the extension of the water main.
Oh,
issue.
yes. Okay. Bighorn Crossing water main.
The water mains were approved by the town as far as the plans for the water mains back in a long time ago, 2017. And this year, as I've given you some updates over the last month and a half, the fire chief has had, apparently he wasn't involved regarding the approval of the water mains at the start, and made a I don't know what that requirement that one of the fire hydrants, at least one of the fire hydrants, be moved to the next to Argentine. That if it had been part of the original review, that could have been part of the original plans. The plans were set up as is, and we've been talking with discussions with the builders on site about whether to add a fire hydrant on the other side of the road, or just extend this water main, or have another connection at someplace else. We went through about a few scenarios and worked with both the fire department and the water as far as Ryan, and also the contractors on site. This is probably the least expensive option. It's an extension of 190 lineal feet of water main. The fire hydrant is moved from the back of the apartment building to the front of the apartment building. And it has a cost, and they have a cost on here, basically just what Ryan told me was a bit more than what the material costs are for this water main. So there's a little bit of, there's obviously some labor involved, but not as much as what we've been charged on some other things. So we ended up, as far as paying for this, this was not part of the original plans. And we ended up to the positive side regarding the developer fees that were involved with the project. So this cost of $85.50 is, I'm asking the board that the town authorized to go ahead and get this extended to Argentine Street, which will be a better situation. You don't want the fire. If the apartment buildings get on fire, you don't want the fire between you and where the fire hydrant's at. If the fire hydrants stay on towards the lagoon side of the apartments. I don't know why. I shouldn't say in a public meeting. I'm frustrated with the original plans, but this is a fix. And we ended up on the additional improvements we did with the developer fees. We ended up with more than enough to cover this cost of $85.50. So that's what I present to you as a possibility.
Shouldn't this be
I don't
borne
like the
by
solution, but
the,
it's the best that I have.
shouldn't this be borne by the developer? Because the whole change was a result of them having different sized boxes or whatever.
Maybe it is borne by the developer if we already got all the money, the extra money, then it's kind of, that was their money to start with. So if we're not over budget, then maybe we're okay.
That's where, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I was just gonna say, looping, what if you didn't do this extension, you would have a dead end. That is a nightmare from the standpoint of disinfection. Having a looping system is obviously better. The best thing, I just want to remind you guys that we did have a Flight for Life helicopter absolutely go up in flames on a helipad in Breckenridge. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have Frisco? Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a fire hydrant right next to the helipad?
That's on the other side of the road. This does not connect all the way to the other side of the road. That is something we discussed in order to loop it completely, Rob. And that would be an additional cost, but the fire hydrant would be much closer to the helipad. Yes, it'd be directly across the street from the helipad.
You gotta loop it. I mean, without question, you gotta loop it.
Yeah.
So, sounds like it was an unfortunate oversight in the original plan. It's being corrected. I don't see any problem with covering that expense. However, it can be covered, and if it can be covered out of the development fees that have already been paid, I'm in favor of that. So, do you need a motion from the board?
Yes, that
Okay.
would be good.
I'll make the motion that we cover the fee, whatever the cost is of this. If it's captured in the development fees we already have, for sure.
So,
I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve covering this expense. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Have I forgotten anything else?
One other thing is
I'm sorry,
Oh.
can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes.
Because I don't think Mary voted, did she? I see her video and her
I did,
audio
I
is
did.
off. You did?
I voted,
Okay.
I voted,
Okay.
I voted
Alrighty,
aye.
thank you. Just want to
Okay.
make sure. Thank you.
Actually, I do see something else. So we were going to have Jerry help us with discussion on, or at least introduction of the issues around the changes to Lucha's liquor license.
I'm happy to help you. That somebody's got a TV going in the background. Is that Gary?
Gary Haynes, can you
Yeah, I
mute?
turned that way down. That was my portable fire radio.
Can you
Okay,
just,
should be
it's,
can you
muted,
just mute
Gary.
yourself, please?
it's not off because
Yeah, let me mute.
Thank you.
thank you.
Should be gone. Not-
There we go.
There. Thank you.
Well, for Lucha's, in terms of modification of premises on the service of alcohol out of the food truck, is that the issue? I assume it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, two things, we've kind of covered it. Two things would be required. You can modify administratively, we could modify the premises to permit alcohol sales from the food truck, which apparently was just kind of happening without, frankly, them having come to the town, which is unfortunate. But you could do that, but of course, you still need to act by rule, regulation, or ordinance, rule, resolution, or ordinance to even allow alcohol in the right of way.
Okay.
And so what I kind of took from the earlier discussion was direction to me to be prepared in 2 weeks to have the tools necessary for you to do one or both or none of the following things. Act by resolution or ordinance, doesn't matter, to allow alcohol in the right of way, which wouldn't let Lucas do it until they also got a modification of premises from the town administrator of the liquor licensing. And secondly, to conceivably allow open consumption in parks. That's clearly an ordinance. I've got your code section here. Open containers prohibited in public places with a very few exceptions. One of those exceptions is for a liquor license, which would apply to the Lucas setting, but you'd still need to say that alcohol could be in rights of way to get past the state statute that doesn't allow that, but the governor's order letting you do that temporarily. So there's this layered effect. So what I'm expecting to be prepared for 2 weeks from now is a formal resolution allowing alcohol to be consumed in the right of way of 6th Street between point A and point B that you would discuss. And if you wanted to even do it, then you could plug in point A and point B. You could plug in, as I think Mary suggested, hours of service, etc. That's sort of one discussion. And then separately be prepared with an ordinance, be an emergency ordinance, to allow open containers in the following public parks, and then fill in the blanks, or choose not to do that. Because when you think about it, that whole public parks discussion is not really a COVID business. Well, it's not a COVID business support the local businesses related issue at all. I don't think. I don't think allowing alcohol in the parks is really something that it's tied to a business protection, promotion, protection of business during COVID issue. I'll be prepared for it because you may independently want to allow that, taking into consideration the police department's concerns. Those are the two things I'll be ready for, and I'll have the documents for. I'll put draft forms of them in the packet. Then you can have the substantive discussion. But Mary's point about the various other alcohol vendors needing to be present for that, I think, is important. And clearly, the police department will want to probably weigh in again. I'm not suggesting you take any action tonight. I don't think it's necessary. I just don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Any questions for Jerry? Or for Kent? Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
You bet.
Okay. Did we cover everything? You have one more thing. Okay.
This is a separate little issue. Maybe it would,
Your connection's going really bad.
is it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Is
Can
tubing
you
in the
try
creek.
turning off the visual and see if that improves the audio?
Can you hear me now?
Some.
Kent, do you want me to do that?
Sure.
Let me do, Kent
It's
and I
still
talked
pretty
about
bad.
this.
Okay.
Let me sub for him. The issue is tubing in the creek through town. The creek bed through town crosses private property and public property. As the town is, as the board's aware, you do have regulations for various kind, boating and various kinds of things in the lake. Through the creek in town, there's you can't bathe in the creek, and you can't, I think, wash utensils in the creek. And I'll bet anything those are leftovers from a century ago. But there's no restriction on tubing in the creek. The law in Colorado established by tubers tubing through Grand County, through a ranch in Grand County on the Colorado River about 20 years ago. And the rancher put up barbed wire trying to keep him from doing that because the Colorado River went across his ranch. Court held that, those are waters of the United States, and you can tube in them over private land, because the private landowner, while they own the banks and the bottom, they don't own the water, and you can tube in it. Now, having said that, local governments can say you can restrict that. It's just the private owners can't, and so there's not a trespass kind of action. And instead, it's going to be up to the government, if it wishes, in this case, the town board, to regulate in any way tubing on the creek through town, probably above the pedestrian bridge. The town's got the right to allow tubing in parts of frankly, throughout the town. That would set up some conflicts between private owners who, despite the Grand County case, perceive that it is a trespass in all ways but legally. And so there's that. And I think does raise some issues about safety, frankly, in high water, in a kind of a confined area that's not really capable for the police department to respond to easily, creates conflicts between the tubers, and unless that's an industry you really want to support, it would be appropriate to have some kind of restriction on tubing on Clear Creek, both forks of Clear Creek, above the pedestrian bridge. And if you're inclined to direct that we have that kind of a rule, I can put together a form of ordinance for that as well for your consideration next meeting. Kent, did I miss anything around this issue? Kent says it's okay.
Thumbs up.
And there have been, apparently there were some calls. Police department did tell someone they had to get out of the creek on private property, and in their defense, this is kind of an obscure part of the law, and people don't really think about the fact that there isn't a trespass claim, and that rancher in Grand County sure felt he was on proper ground.
Mhm.
But apparently the tuber was aware of the Grand County case and aware of his rights. But the town has police power authority that it could just say, no, it's unsafe for lots of good reasons. We don't want to have that happening above the pedestrian bridge. Below the pedestrian bridge, it's a creek and then into the lagoon. And then frankly, that's probably consistent with what is allowed on the lake below that point. Thoughts about that? I'm happy to create a draft and it can be in your packet.
So just because I wasn't really sort of understanding, past the pedestrian bridge, you're going to allow it. South of the pedestrian bridge, you won't.
That's a good break point. You can put the break point anywhere you want. I would put it somewhere where you've eliminated the conflicts between private tubers and private homeowners, certainly, because I think that's one of the goals of that ordinance would be to just reduce those conflicts. They're inevitably going to happen, as they did. The homeowner apparently called and the police department came and try to assert a kind of a trespass claim. So I would at least do that. I don't know how much further upstream would be appropriate for you to allow it, but that's a good break point. Ken suggested that as a break point.
And the creek is a lot wider there anyway, right?
Wider, safer. And if there is, think about it, if there is a kid that falls off of the tube and needs to be rescued no differently than the lake, you really need to be able to have access to the creek so that you can protect those people. And that's another reason to restrict it to areas where it's accessible. And honestly, this is only going to be true during high water, which is only going to be true for a few months until it's only a couple inches deep. But nevertheless, every year there will be a time when it's really attractive, it's hot, people want to hop in and ride all the way. How fun would that be? Ride all the way through town and end up in the lake. And it just, I see the potential for conflicts and safety issues, frankly.
It is also possible because Boulder Creek and Clear Creek down in Golden have been barricaded off and they're not allowed to use it. That's more for a social distancing issue, but it still might be pushing people to find other places to tube. And I just see it as a huge safety issue. I remember back in the 90s when, and this kid wasn't tubing, but it was particularly a high water year. And on the 4th of July, a kid went into the creek up in Silver Plume and drowned. And I don't want anybody drowning in town waters. So I'm in favor of restricting it, as in not allowing it. So
anywhere
in the town boundary, you could do it at the lake where it's more open and accessible, and we allow more water uses, but I would hesitate to it. I'm just not comfortable having people float down, especially in in areas where you can't get to them easily. What are they going to do? Wade into the creek from downstream? And it winds up being a really horrible water rescue if something goes bad. And that water is cold. It's not ever warm. So I'm in favor of not allowing it inside the town boundaries, unless you're at the lake and it's covered by what our uses currently allow.
Tubing comes awful close to swimming though, and we don't allow swimming at the lake. And I don't disagree with the safety concerns here. I guess I'm just a little fuzzy when you say pedestrian bridge. Are you talking the one right at the mouth of where the lake starts, by the condos and the Bighorn?
Yeah.
The annex one?
No, the lagoon.
So technically that's not even the creek anymore. You're talking the lake.
Oh, okay.
So,
I thought you were talking about the annex one.
Just like Jerry said, it could be at either point, depending on what it is.
can you type in your response, Ken?
Yeah, Ken, your audio is not very good.
You sound like you're gargling.
What I'm happy
underwater.
What I'm happy to do is create that ordinance. There can be, no tubing in Clear Creek within the boundaries of the town upstream of, and then leave a blank. And 2 weeks from now, you can plug in this bridge, that bridge, or its confluence with Georgetown Lake. And that allows you to have the downstream point established. And if you don't want it anywhere in the creek, at all. You just say Clear Creek within the town of Georgetown, and that's the whole creek and leaves the lake out. I agree that tubing is close to swimming, and there's what we do in terms of regulating the lake. Probably have a separate discussion, I guess, around if you want to change the requirements on the lake. But to sort of address the specific issue, which is both safety, as Lynette points out, and I think conflicts with private landowners that don't, and you can't expect them to understand the vagaries of the Commerce Clause allowing people to navigate the waters of the United States. And so I think that you know, there's two good reasons to address the issue. I'm happy to prepare an ordinance and have that available for you in 2 weeks.
How does the board feel? I'd like to see an ordinance.
I feel that since we no longer bathe in the lake, we need to lower the water bills.
We just
Thank you.
raised them. Thank you, Keith. Does anybody have strong feelings about not doing the ordinance or strong feelings for?
I think I'm for the ordinance, I guess, for safety and stuff. I just, you know, it is like swimming. The creek is really cold, and the bridges are going to be at times really close to the tubers, you know, and they're not going to know the difference. And I'd just as soon not have a fatality.
I don't want anybody banging into the upstream side of my bridge. So, yeah.
How is, I haven't been in that creek. How is it any different? I mean, purposely in that creek. Well, I guess I have for the duck race. How is our creek area any different than Clear Creek further down in Golden?
Narrower.
Well, yeah, duh, thank you.
Well, I think
I
it's.
mean, I know it's a safety issue, but I mean, can we, you know, how much can we prohibit too? I mean, we ask people to put, you know, safety vests on when they're out on the lake, and, you know, again, we don't do that.
I think that, frankly, the physical setup of the creek in Georgetown is markedly different than the physical setup of the creek in Golden. I'm a runner, as you know, and so I run the Clear Creek Trail all the way through Golden. They've kind of embraced some wading pools, kayak kind of shoot, and they encourage people to be there. They've closed it more for COVID reasons, as Lynette points out. But it's wider and it's on public property, and it's really accessible for water rescue safety purposes. And it doesn't have the bridges that can be, the bridges there are, you know, town bridges that are pretty high, way up above the surface of the creek. And Georgetown, of course, you have private bridges and public bridges that are a foot or 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever rafted, you're coming up on a bridge and you realize a little too late that you're going to have to duck. I think we've all had that circumstance. So I think you have a very solid public policy safety reason to do it. I'm not saying you must, that's absolutely your call. But from a public safety and water rescue availability standpoint, your physical situation is very different than Golden's.
And that's the information that I would like to be made available. You know, yeah, I've rafted further downstream. Yes, I've been out on the lake, but I haven't been on the water between, let's say, the Energy Museum and where it hits the lagoon. So, you know, so if we're talking safety reasons, let's be able to say that, as opposed to sounding like a bunch of curmudgeons saying, you can't have fun in Georgetown, you know, and God, let's make sure we don't have a beer in their hand when they're tubing down that creek. So just saying. So I'd like that all articulated so that when we say this next time around, we've got good reason why we're prohibiting it on the creek.
Why we're curmudgeons.
That's right.
Well, I will draft it up and include those whereases. I think it'd be important for the sheriff, the marshal's office to weigh in, and frankly, in between now and then, it would be helpful for you to cruise around and look at just the physical situation. It's narrow, it's fast, it's a real scary place, I think, and talk to people that live on the creek and have property rights there, that and in part be ready for that. But
I'll
sure
set up a tube trip. I'll set up a tube trip and we'll all go down.
while it's still legal, you can do that. Come back with a bandage on your head from hitting Lynette's bridge. And we'll ask the police department to, be ready to make comments on it. And then you can make a policy choice next week.
Well, I'll walk on everybody's private property in order to be able to make that viewing. Thank you.
They can't.
Tube it.
They can't. Why don't you send one?
Exercise your Commerce Clause constitutional rights to tube it right up until it's prohibited. You can tube the whole thing.
Why don't you have the fire chief look at it too, because he does the swiftwater rescue.
That's a really good idea.
And or
Let's do a
sheriff.
drone. Let's get a drone.
If there's no objection, I'll prepare that draft, and it can be in the packet. Whether you adopt it or not, in whole or in part, or is up to you. But you'll at least have the material.
Okay. Is
Okay.
everybody in agreement with that? Okay, I see it. Lots of nods. Good. Okay, anything else that we need to deal with tonight? Okay, I see hands off from Kent. I don't see anybody chiming in, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
That was a unanimous motion. Was there anybody who didn't make that motion that could second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Keith. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Not a one. All right, very good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Lynette.
Appreciate it.
Good night, John boy.
Good
Night,
night.